Remember when staying up past midnight didn't feel like borrowing energy from tomorrow? When aches and pains were things that happened to other people? It's wild how fast the shift comes. 1 minute you're hustling through meetings, kids, practices, late-night grocery runs, and the next you catch your reflection and wonder who slipped a few more years onto your face without asking permission. Midlife has a way of sneaking up on us, doesn't it? And with it comes a deeper awareness. Not just about what we've gained, but about what we're at risk of losing if we don't pay attention. Energy, mobility, relationships, even dignity sometimes, if we're not careful. The habits we shape now don't just determine how we feel today. They carve the path for how we'll be seen and how we'll live decades from now. That's why today, we're getting real about something most people shy away from. Those awkward, uncomfortable habits that tend to creep in as we age. You know the ones, the little things that push people away, that quietly chip away at our vibrancy, that we might not even realize are happening until they're already in full swing. We're going to unpack them together, not to shame anyone, but because awareness gives us power. Power to choose differently. Power to keep growing into the person we're proud to be, not shrinking into someone we barely recognize. Let's start here, with something almost no one talks about, but everyone notices. Complaining. Becoming a reflex. It's almost like an invisible switch flips sometime after 60. The aches, the frustrations, the tiny injustices of daily life, they all bubble up faster, louder. And before you know it, negativity isn't just an occasional visitor, it's a permanent roommate. Now don't get me wrong, life does hand us a lot to vent about, especially when the knees hurt and technology feels like it's designed by aliens. But here's the thing, constant complaining doesn't just wear down the listener, it wears down you. It shrinks the mind's capacity for joy, for gratitude, for possibility. And the people who love you, they start visiting less often, calling less often, not because they don't care, but because negativity drains their spirit too. Shifting this isn't about pretending everything's fine when it isn't. It's about balance. It's about letting yourself acknowledge the hard parts without letting them steal the spotlight from everything else that's still good. Even small shifts, like ending each vent session with one thing you're grateful for, can reset the tone without feeling fake. Right alongside the complaining habit comes another, sneaky one, talking only about the past. You know those conversations where every story begins with "back in my day"? They're comforting at first. Nostalgia is powerful and beautiful. But when every conversation becomes a trip down memory lane, something dangerous happens. We stop living forward. The truth is, people around you, especially younger friends and family, want to hear your memories. They do. But they also want to feel like you're still here, still curious, still part of the now. They want to talk about ideas, dreams, things yet to come, not just things long gone. It doesn't mean forgetting the past. It means weaving it into today. Instead of just saying, "when I was your age," maybe asking, "what's your dream right now? What's something exciting coming up for you?" That openness pulls people closer. It keeps you vital, connected, and seen not just as a relic of the past, but as a living, breathing force in the present. These are small things, but they matter more than you might realize. The energy you bring into a room, the focus you place on hope rather than regret, it changes how people experience you. And just as importantly, it changes how you experience your own life. There's another habit, one that creeps in almost silently, that can slowly push people away without a single harsh word. It's the habit of assuming the worst about others' intentions. It usually starts small, a missed phone call, a text that goes unanswered, a family visit that feels a little too rushed. Somewhere deep inside, a tiny voice whispers, they don't care as much anymore. And if we're not careful, that voice gets louder. Before long, we start expecting to be forgotten, to be overlooked. We assume hurt instead of understanding busy schedules. We interpret silence as distance, and little by little, we build walls, thick ones, that make it even harder for the people who love us to reach in. I get it. When life slows down for you, but speeds up for everyone else, it's easy to feel left behind. but holding on to grace, the kind that says, maybe they're overwhelmed, not uncaring. It's one of the greatest gifts you can offer yourself. And them. A simple, forgiving mindset can keep relationships breathing even when life gets chaotic. Another tricky one that nobody warns us about? Oversharing personal health issues. It's almost a rite of passage after 60. Doctor's appointments become social events, prescriptions multiply, new aches pop up daily. Talking about it feels natural, but when every conversation turns into a medical chart update, it can make the people around you uncomfortable, even if they don't say it. The goal isn't to hide your struggles. Far from it. Authenticity matters. But learning how to talk about your health without letting it define every interaction, that keeps your identity bigger than your symptoms. Instead of leading with, "My back is killing me again," you might try, "Had a rough morning, but you wouldn't believe the book I just finished." You're more than your aches. You're a whole, fascinating, evolving human being. Don't let discomfort become your entire headline. Another ugly habit that sneaks in quietly. Becoming rigid about routines. Look, I love a good routine as much as anyone. Morning coffee rituals, favorite walking paths, TV shows that anchor the week. It's comforting. But when routine hardens into refusal to try anything new, that's when it gets dangerous. Midlife should still be a time of learning, of adventure, of stretching a little outside your comfort zone. And yet it's so easy to default to "no thanks, I'm good" before you even hear the full invitation. New restaurant? Too spicy. New hobby? Too complicated. New technology? Too confusing. Every no carves the world smaller and smaller until one day, you realize you're living inside the same 4 experiences on repeat. And it doesn't feel comforting anymore. It feels stifling. You don't have to say yes to everything. But pausing, just pausing, to wonder what might happen if you did say yes once in a while, that's the tiny crack that keeps possibility alive. You might discover a love for spicy food. You might master a gadget you thought was way over your head. You might meet people who make your world sparkle again. And speaking of keeping the world sparkling, there's one more silent habit that creeps in with age, and a habit that dims your presence without you even noticing. It's losing curiosity. That soft but devastating shift where instead of asking questions, you start assuming you already know the answers. Instead of wondering about new music, new books, new viewpoints, you quietly turn away, thinking, "That's not for me," without ever dipping a toe in. Curiosity is the soul's oxygen. It's what keeps your spirit elastic, your mind engaged, your heart open. And when curiosity dries up, so does the feeling of being truly alive. Life starts to feel smaller, grayer, more mechanical, like you're just marking time instead of truly living it. It doesn't have to be grand gestures. You don't have to backpack through Europe or take up astrophysics. Sometimes staying curious is as simple as reading an article about a topic you know nothing about, trying a new recipe, asking your teenage grandson what music he's into lately, and actually listening without judgment. Curiosity says, "There's still more for me here." And believe me, there is. Right next to losing curiosity comes a habit that's a little sharper around the edges, criticizing everything that's new or different. Maybe you catch yourself scoffing at the latest fashion trends, or rolling your eyes at how people run their businesses today, or shaking your head over how different parenting looks now compared to when you were raising your kids. It's easy to slide into that critical space. New can feel threatening. It can feel like it's pushing you out of relevance. But criticizing from the sidelines doesn't actually keep you connected. It builds walls of resentment, walls that make others hesitate to share their lives with you. What one small mindset shift can change everything. Instead of critiquing, get curious. Ask yourself, why might they be doing it that way? What challenges do they face that I didn't? You might not agree with everything, and you don't have to. But approaching change with openness instead of scorn keeps you woven into the evolving world around you instead of isolated from it. And while we're talking about connection, there's another habit that, although unintentional, can make people pull away: monopolizing conversations. When time starts to feel precious, and let's be honest, once you've clocked a few decades, you know how precious it really is, there's a temptation to share everything, all at once. Stories tumble out faster. Interruptions become more frequent. The urge to make sure you're heard gets louder. But conversations are a dance, not a solo performance. If you're always the one leading, if there's never room for others to step in, people start to feel crowded out. They smile politely, but inside they're pulling away. One of the greatest gifts you can offer, especially as you grow older, is being a generous listener. Pausing, inviting, holding space. It tells people, you matter too. And in a world where everyone's racing for attention, that kind of grace is magnetic. There's something powerful about stepping back and thinking, have I listened as much as I've spoken today? Even one extra moment of silence, one curious question instead of one more story, can open the door to deeper, richer connection. And there's yet another quiet shift that can erode relationships if we're not careful. A habit tied not to what we say, but to what we stop doing altogether. It's the habit of withholding affection. As we get older, it's easy to assume that the people in our lives already know how we feel. That after decades of friendship, marriage, parenting, there's no need to say, I love you as often. No need for spontaneous hugs or quick notes of encouragement. But here's the thing. No one ever outgrows the need to feel loved, seen, and appreciated. Not your spouse, not your kids, not your friends, and certainly not you. When affection dries up, not just the grand gestures but the tiny everyday ones, relationships start to feel brittle. Quiet resentments form. Distance grows even when the people you love are sitting right across the table. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It can be a hand on the shoulder, a quick text saying, thinking of you. A compliment you would have given easily years ago but now hesitate to voice. These little moments stitch the fabric of connection tighter, stronger, more beautifully than anything else. The next quiet habit that sneaks in as the years pass is neglecting appearance altogether. Now don't get me wrong, this isn't about chasing youth or pretending you're 25. It's about self-respect, about showing the world and yourself that you're still engaged, still vibrant, still worthy of care. When we stop tending to our appearance completely, wearing the same tired clothes day after day, not bothering with basic grooming, letting little things slide because we think no one notices. It's not just the outside world that picks up on it. We feel it too. There's power in putting on a crisp shirt even when you're staying home, in brushing your hair, choosing a necklace, polishing your shoes, even when the day ahead is quiet. It sends a message to yourself that you are still in the game, still alive, still worth showing up for. One small action, even something as simple as swapping the sagging sweatpants for your favorite jeans, can shift the whole energy of your day. And while we're here, another subtle habit that tends to creep in, fixating on control. After years of running households, raising kids, leading projects, making decisions, it's natural to want to keep that sense of order. But when the need to control others' choices becomes rigid, it pushes people away faster than almost anything else. You might think you're helping when you insist that your adult child take a different job or raise their kids a certain way. You might think you're protecting someone when you correct their every decision. But what feels like love on your end often feels like suffocation on theirs. The secret? Shift from control to influence, from command to conversation, from demands to curiosity. Ask questions. Share your experiences without expectations. Trust that the people you love are finding their way, just like you once did, stumbling, learning, becoming. And as hard as it is, sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let go of the urge to fix or steer, and simply walk beside them, ready to catch if they ask, but not to carry them before they're ready. Now there's one more habit that doesn't get nearly enough attention. A habit that quietly builds walls not just with others, but inside ourselves. It's the habit of closing yourself off emotionally, not because you don't feel anymore, but because feeling deeply starts to feel dangerous, too raw, too heavy, too complicated. Maybe you've lived through losses. Maybe you've survived, Betrayals. Maybe you've just seen enough of life's sharp edges to think, I'll just keep my heart quieter from now on. But when we wall off our emotions, even the good ones, we don't just protect ourselves from pain. We block joy. We dull wonder. We numb the very things that make being human worth it. It might seem safer to avoid deep conversations, to wave away tears with a joke, to shrug off dreams because they feel too risky now. But the truth is, connection thrives on vulnerability. And the people who love you most, they want to know the full, messy, beautiful you. Not just the polished version who pretends everything's fine. It's a powerful thing to let yourself cry when something touches you. To tell a friend you miss them. To admit when you're scared or lonely or wildly excited. Emotion isn't weakness. Emotion is proof that you're still in the arena of life. Still fighting, still dreaming. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do at midlife and beyond is simply to stay open, to keep letting life reach you, even when it feels easier to shut down. And while we're talking about staying open, there's another habit, sneakier than most, that creeps in when you're not paying attention, believing your best days are behind you. It's a subtle shift at first, noticing fewer invitations, feeling a little out of touch with new trends, hearing someone call you sir or ma'am with just a little too much respect. And if you're not careful, the thought creeps in, maybe my big moments are over, but let's stop right there, because that's a lie. The truth is, midlife and beyond can be the most extraordinary chapters yet, if you let them be. You have wisdom now. You have resilience. You have a deeper sense of what matters and what doesn't. That's a kind of power younger people are still chasing. Starting a new passion project at 50, finding love at 60, reinventing your health at first. None of it is off the table unless you decide it is. The best days aren't gone. They're waiting for you to believe you still deserve them. There's something magnetic about a person who radiates that quiet certainty, who steps into each day expecting wonder rather than loss. People want to be near that energy. They want to be inspired by it. And that brings us to one final, often invisible habit. One that, if we don't catch it, can quietly drain the color out of everything we do. It's the habit of settling, of thinking, this is just how things are now, even when deep down you want more. It happens slowly. You stop trying new things because you assume they're for someone younger. You avoid learning new skills because you worry about looking foolish. You stay in routines that feel dull or isolating, not because they nourish you, but because they're familiar. And over time, you start calling it realistic. You start telling yourself it's too late to change. But here's the truth that too few people say out loud. Settling is not the same as aging gracefully. Settling is what happens when you start editing your life down, instead of expanding into the person you still have every right to become. There's nothing graceful about shrinking yourself to fit a story that no longer excites you. You can still take risks. You can still chase joy. You can still reinvent yourself in ways that surprise even you. That's not wishful thinking. That's owning the freedom that midlife offers. Freedom that comes from knowing who you are and no longer needing to prove it to anyone. You are allowed to evolve at 45, at 60, at 75. You are allowed to unlearn habits that no longer serve you. You are allowed to dream differently now. Not smaller, just differently. You are allowed to be curious, to be passionate, to be fully alive. So if any part of this conversation stirred something in you, if you recognized a habit you've been holding on to or a voice inside whispering, there must be more than this, listen to it. Not with shame, not with guilt, with love, with that deep, quiet knowing that says, I'm not done growing yet. You don't have to fix everything all at once. Just start with one habit, one shift, one brave yes. Maybe it's smiling a little more often. Maybe it's dusting off that guitar. Maybe it's wearing that color you used to love before someone told you it was too bold. Maybe it's calling someone you've been missing and saying, hey, I'd love to hear your voice. Midlife isn't a countdown. It's a launch pad for the adventures you still crave. The relationships that still need deepening. the creativity that still wants to pour out of you. And if no one's told you lately, you're doing better than you think. You're not behind. You're right on time. If this video made you think or feel, drop a comment and share your story. I read them all, and you never know who your words might lift up. And if this felt like a conversation worth continuing, hit that like button, subscribe, and join us here each week. We're building something real, a community of people rewriting the rules for what aging looks and feels like. Here's to staying open, to showing up, to never settling for a smaller life than the one you're capable of. Because the next chapter, it can be your best one yet.